past all of them as well. What a move for the 48. Oh, look at this, and onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
It's time to crown the champions of the 2023 Radical Esports Cup UK, and what more fitting place to do so than the home of British motorsports. Welcome to Silverstone, and for the final time to RaceSpotTV, where champions will be crowned. Our Junior Kenki party on hand alongside with Ewan O'Leary as we unleash the Radical SR10s for another 60-minute dash, and with the three classes of competition sure to put on plenty of fighting. It's been a short, rapid-fire campaign, seeing us go across of some of the best tracks in all of in British motorsports, and effectively, Ewan, it wraps up here with a fascinating back-to-back doubleheader to close out the season.
Yeah, a straining couple of weeks for all of the drivers, but it's a back-to-back round in which Silverstone marks the end of our season. A great track, of course, to go racing, especially in these radicals, by the way. It really suits these cars, and I think we'll see a fantastic race here this evening. And what is the final day of the championship, and all of the maths and permutations that comes with that as well.
Hopefully we don't have to get as into the weeds as they did on the British Formula 4 esports coverage just this past week, but of course it's a big week of competition for Motorsports UK esports, and we'll talk about that in a few moments time. Let's quickly talk to you about the format though, because 4 very quick rounds of the championship, all with a 60-minute race, a mandatory pit stop, which is really implemented by the fixed setup that the drivers are all dealing with, which has a fixed fuel capacity which requires them to come back down to the pit lane as they're split across the 3 classes of competition, all divvied up by iRating, as they fight for their prize. The class winners walking away, or rather sitting in towards a hospitality seat in the Radical Cup UK round of their choice in 2024. And ultimately, we talk about 3 classes. Ewan, we've seen them up and down through the field produce some great racing.
Yeah, absolutely. We have over the course of the 3 different classes. We've got some very close finishes along the way, some very dominant drives as well, though, let's not forget, and some very impressive performances in that respect, and I'm sure we'll get into some of those over the course of the season. I think Adam Locke springs to mind in the AM class. Not exactly close finishes throughout most of the AM races throughout this season, because like the close races, the good battling, we've also seen some very dominant drives from him, for example.
Yeah, so let's go back to front. Let's start with the AMs, because I think you're right that the championship lead here may be at its most significant, where Adam Locke's been able to, amidst all of the carnage, and he's had to fight his way through some of that carnage, most notably at Brands Hatch, of course. 3 victories have seen him build up that advantage over those behind. Janeman Preuss still putting the pressure on to Scott Norweisser, though, with the 60 minutes left at the end of the season. And a 3-way tie currently for 4th. Still plenty for these drivers to fight themselves for. Let's then make our way up towards the Pro-Am drivers, where, well, this is where it's going to be close to you in 1 point between Ben Cooper and Adam Grevson.
Yeah, and in theory, 5 drivers can win the title here tonight. It's not likely that the likes of Paul Clark will, but mathematically he can. So just put that into perspective. It's going to be a great race, though, between Ben Cooper and Adam Grevson. And let's not forget, these guys will be right in the middle of the field. I believe that it's the most difficult start of the race for any of the classes, because the Pro-Ams are stuck right in the middle. You're not exactly out of the way at the front. You're not exactly, or you can't exactly slow down like you can at the back and just watch turn 1 unfold in front of you. You've got to get involved involved in it, and that's going to make the opening corners of the Pro-Am race very interesting indeed.
Absolutely. One more class to, of course, talk about, and one thing I'll just note is the drivers have already done their qualifying session. They're getting a warm-up period right now, so they kind of know where they stack up as they get ready to go, and so Nathan Moore knows he's got the advantage by almost 9 points over Matthew Crisp, a little bit further back, of course, to Crofton Woodhatch, but Matthew Crisp is not going to be racing today. In fact, a couple of drivers missing in action, and therefore the advantage that Nathan Moore has, Ewan, even larger to those behind.
Absolutely, so we can call that at 14 really between himself and Crofton Woodhatch, which means here today that he only really needs to finish in 12th in the pro standings or higher and he will take the title. So that's quite low down, generally just needing to score some points at the end of today, and he will be the pro champion here for this season as well. It's a shame that Matthew Crisp isn't here really, because that momentum he will have gained from that race win back at Brands Hatch could have really carried him forward in this next race, but unfortunately he's not able to utilise it.
So here's a look, of course, at the points from top to bottom. There's plenty of championship drama that I'm sure drivers will be focusing on, even if the champions are those that walk away with the prizes. Everyone wants to finish up with, well, some decent results, and as you look from up above, it's the full Grand Prix layout of Silverstone. We're going to see lap times just under 2 minutes in times, but it's a technical challenge even in an easy car, and imagine now taking it on in a beast as difficult as this Radical, Ewan.
Yeah, it is difficult, but the racing, I think, is going to be so good round here. These cars, in relation to the Grand Prix circuit, and especially compared to the other free circuits we've been on this calendar so far, the Radicals are quite small, which means there's a lot of space to either side of you when you're on the racing line here, and that should help overtaking. Long straights as well, big drafts on the way towards, for example, Stowe Corner. There'll be a big one towards Brooklands as well. And the flat, well, it's not flat out from Luffield to Stowe, but it's really high speed. And that's really going to be helpful in these cars to sort of draft off one another and help with overtaking. So I think this is going to be a good race because of those reasons. But yeah, not an easy one by any means, even with the slightly extended runoff they have these days.
And so let's run down through the starting grid because we're ready to go for the final time this season. Then Nathan Moore, Crofton Woodhatch on the front row with the two championship protagonists alongside James Dawson, and then Dan Webster behind with Adam Grevson and Ben Cooper, the Pro-Am championship protagonists, alongside on row number 3. Plenty of drama for them, but look at the margins through the field so far. Stephen Hobbs and Martina Ward on the second row of the Pro-Am standings, with Carl Chase, Jake Pitt, the first AM driver, and then Robert Woodward and David Brown, the rest of the top 12. It's over then to the likes of Paul Clark, Matt Cheverton, Ben Bennyworth, and so many others. They're already basically ready to roll on the grid, so we're going to just rumble our way down through the names and then turn our attention towards those drivers with the engines already revving and championship intentions in mind. The 2023 Radical Esports Cup UK is ready to come to a close, and some drivers going nowhere on the start. It's great though at the front for Nathan Moore, who will lead them through the opening corner. A couple more drivers side by side though, as up towards the loop and the village section they will run. It's hard onto the brakes. It's side by side for third. It's single file for first.
Yeah, it's Nathan Moore who's gotten off to a great start and is unchallenged through the first few corners. There is certainly a challenge for fourth though, and around goes one of the Radicals, unfortunately, and a few more as well. It's all been going on in the mid-pack as there were dives on the inside going into turn 4.
And so Grevson's down at the very back. I'm trying to figure out where Ben Cooper has cycled in the midst of that. He's 6th in class. They're still all helter-skelter in through Brooklands, Luffield, and of course down towards the old pitch straightaway in that crucial run. The very tempting run as well as you come up towards Cops to stick it side by side. I'm not sure that's necessarily the smartest. So there's Ben Cooper, the 9:59, that purple machine just at the front of the shot that we see, working down into that old turn number 1. But goodness gracious me, drama on the opening lap, not necessarily what you want to see.
No, not really. Ben Cooper still 5th place, and so would be winning the championship as things stand. But out front, it's Nathan Moore who leads James Dawson and Crofton Woodhatch. The top 3 places only covered by pro drivers. Further back from that, it is a bit more tricky. Not many pros on the grid at all here tonight, actually. Only 6 of them. Dan Webster is at the back of the field and started there, by the way, as Martina Ward has gone off through Maggots and Beckett's.
She's had a technical issue and dropped down the order, as I think what we're seeing, so we'll have to just give it a moment moment and hope that she reappears on the screen, but it is very much the breakaway at the front and Dawson playing the party spoils here. I do think, though, if we do the math, as long as Nathan Moore finishes this race by virtue of how the points play out, with only 6 pro cars in the field, he should, don't quote me on this one, he should have the championship locked up. But as they run off the track behind, that was David Brown into the wall. What a chaotic opening lap of the final round of the season.
Yeah, and that will give a place again to Cooper. So he's now to 3rd. Is Cooper. Grevson still a long way back in the field as of right now. He's 20th overall and 7th in class from what I can see. There's the contact. I think, to be honest, he just didn't realise there were 3 wide and was giving the space for 1 car where there was actually 2 there. And
so unfortunate, but it could have been worse, and you could see as they rejoin onto the short run in towards this Brooklands complex that opportunities for moves to be made as the AM leader gets passed by the Pro-Am leader. So Jake Pitt passed by Stephen Hobbs, and of course that's for track position but not for points. So there's no real incentive for them to fight. For Ben Cooper, though, who's now up into 3rd, you've got to try and wonder what his mindset's going to be at this time, Ewan.
Darryl Taylor's off the road, I think, at Brooklands and Luffield as well, unfortunately. But yeah, you do wonder at the moment. There's a lot of class mixing going on today. A bit more than what we've seen throughout the previous few weeks, I think it's fair to say. We've got all 3 different classes inside the top 5 at the moment. All 3 class leaders inside the top 5, which is a little bit strange. And that means there's sort of a lot of battles going on out there that don't actually mean a whole lot at this stage.
It is a little bit confusing. I see Martina Ward, by the way, jumping into the Discord virtual paddock, so I've got to assume there was a bit of a technical issue there that's dropped her from the race. Here's a look at up at the top of Stowe. Gabriel Yilmaz is going to lose the rear end and spin it around. It wasn't the only bit of drama, of course. David Brown at the front of the Pro-Am running order had a big issue through the final corner.
He just got a tiny bit loose there through the final turn and then overcorrected straight into the wall, and that's the well, I was going to say the end of his day. He will continue on from that, but there it is. I don't even think he really grabbed the curb that much, but he just over-corrected straight into the wall, and there'll surely be damage on that car.
And you called out that Darryl Taylor, who's already running at the very tail end of the pro field, had his little spin around. It's not been an easy season for him by any means, and it continues to be a struggle. Up the inside, oh goodness, Ben Cooper deep, and with the inside tyre locking up, it's going to be Matthew Cheverton slipping back on through. Robert Wood with the Pro Machine is going to take advantage of that mistake, but you can tell that Ben Cooper wants to win this championship by finishing at the front.
Yeah, he certainly does. He's back on the podium again now, and he's got 3 cars between himself and Grevson, who is in 7th place at the moment. That would give him another 4 points, of course, to add to the point that he currently holds over Grevson in the standings, and so there is the gap of 5. It's a real shame that James Child isn't here today, I've got to say, because he could have been right up there. He started a few points back with 44 at the start of today. Or 41, I should say, sorry. Only 9 points back, and, you know, with the issues for Grevson and Cooper off the first lap, he could have been right up there.
Here comes Cooper up the inside of Woodward. That was a nice decisive pass. One thing that I think I did note was a lot of drivers didn't necessarily have the most amount of practice coming into this one, which is maybe where we're seeing a bit of these overlaps of the classes as well. Ben Cooper very confident in getting past that 24 machine as they slink their way through Maggis and Beckett's for what is the 3rd time of an estimated 30 or 31 over the course of this race. It's all going to depend on the pace of those up front and, well, how much they want to fight. James Dawson has been passed by Crofton Woodhatch, and now Woodhatch, with a look to the inside, is very much trying to set himself up to shape up for the lead.
Yeah, don't forget earlier on, Woodhatch was in 3rd place. Has got past James Dawson, has set that fastest lap of the race, and is now attacking Nathan Moore, but I have a feeling that this situation is going to remain so for some time. There's Dawson with a new fastest lap, mainly because he's got the draft of 2 drivers in front, but it's so important round here. Such a big circuit in relation to these Radicals. They spend so long on the throttle that the draft is going to be very important, and those 3 leaders are going to stay together for a while, I would imagine.
100%, and I think it might even just be a bit of a strategy call here as poor Ben Cooper now goes around the outside of Cheverton as he tries to get his way past after locking up a lap or so ago. He clatters the inside curve, slightly unsettles the car, but is able to spool it around. And I think back to, you know, the schedule that we've seen this season, Donington, Snetterton and Brands all before this. While Silverstone does have its technical sections, there's no doubt about that, it's also the fastest track of the season, isn't it, Ewan?
I would imagine so, yeah, in terms of average speed. And that doesn't take away from the technical challenge, but people do forget how high speed Silverstone is sometimes, because there's a lot of corners on it. Straight line speed is very important still, and just outright speed, there's an advantage or a viewing of it there. Cooper down the inside at Copse, I wouldn't necessarily advise that based on previous years' experience, but anyway, he decided to back out just in time to not cause an accident, let's say.
Hey, I don't know what you're talking about. In the sim, we've proved that unlike Sir Lewis Hamilton, Mr. Max Verstappen, we can go side by side through Copse without dying, although I think it's up towards the front where they're going to go side by side, and Crofton Woodhatch has slid his way on through to the lead. Nathan Moore now under fire from James Dawson, who takes a peek to the outside. The Pearson's machine on the inside covers things off and holds on for the time being, but as Woodhatch hits the front, it's all as still drama further back behind as Woodward, Norvesa, plenty of switching around going on. Silverstone's always a great race, I feel.
Yeah, I think it is as well. Really enjoy this circuit. I know I'm biased and whatever, but this is Radical Esports UK. UK. So that's right. It's not my local circuit, by the way, but I do think it's a fantastic one and always provides great racing, and presumably pretty difficult right now as well, because as you said earlier, big class splits and probably the most we've seen all day. Jake Pitt in the AM car is actually ahead of Stephen Hobbs, the leading Pro AM car, which is especially odd to see.
It's quite cool to see, isn't it, as well, in some ways, as we see just the gaps between some of these drivers. It looked from Hobbs on Dawson, but also just Cheverton being closed down on in by Ben Cooper. That's going to be a late lunge to the inside of a corner that then feeds you back to the inside of the next one. And so as Cooper tries to get his way on through, Cheverton back to the inside and can run the 959 out of room, escorts him onto the curbing on the outside, but they're still side by side, and we're about to see if they can go wheel to wheel through Copse.
I think someone's going to back out here, if I'm honest, but let's see if they both commit to this. Round the outside for Cooper, and he does back out, and I certainly would have in his situation as well. He's gone for the run off the corner and maybe go for the inside at Maggots and Beckett's. This first spot doesn't really matter. It's this right-hander he wants the inside for, but he can't get far enough alongside of him there either, and so backs out again. And Cheverton will hang on to that 6th position for now. So Ben Cooper tentative in this move, but he does want to get it done. That much is clear.
Martina Ward, by the way, reports that the entire village lost power, which is suboptimal as almost contact. Cheverton tries to pinch Cooper on entry up in towards Stowe, and somehow no contact, and somehow Cooper gets on through. But as Cheverton picks back underneath, contact into the Vale, no room left whatsoever, and all this fighting's wonderful to see, but it's drawing those back behind into the fight.
It certainly is, and if I was Ben Cooper, I really wouldn't be getting involved with this. You're championship leader, you're ahead of your closest rival, and you're battling like this with Cheverton inside of turn 1, and Matt Cheverton's back through again. Ben Cooper's going to come back again though at turn 3. This is a wonderful battle between the two, although maybe not the smartest one I've seen all day long so far. It's Cooper who's back behind again, and now Robert Woodward has caught up.
A battle so good, I got my tongue tied as I tried to get my words out. We're only 10 minutes in, let's not forget. Pit stop window is on the verge of opening, and so, well, you've got to assume that maybe some of these drivers are going to get chalked up behind this, are going to think maybe it's wise to dive down pit lane. This time it's the outside for Cooper as they work through Brooklands, but that was bold from Cheverton to slam the door shut, and a bit of a shot across the nose there as contact made on the exit of Luffield. And, well, it's great to watch, but tensions are flaring, and I agree with you. If you're Ben Cooper, you've got to get the memo. You might be faster, but are you willing to risk the championship? Inside look in through Copse.
He certainly is willing to risk this. And there's side-to-side contact. Ever so slight it is, but this time he might be on his way through. Robert Woodward's trying to get involved as well. There goes Cooper down the inside. Cheverton round the outside through Maggots and Beckett's again. He holds on to the position. Woodward couldn't get involved, but he might well do now, although the understeer through there wasn't nice. He is not maybe as close as he wanted to be. Ben Cooper can't find his way through, and we're still not really sure why he's still going for this, but now maybe he'll get the place.
He feels he is that much faster, surely, than Cheverton. outside of Stowe as it goes off camber. It actually benefits you slightly again, a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, and with Cooper on the inside this time, he's going to force Cheverton to concede. Oh, it's not done by any means, but what was a 2-car fight is close to becoming a 3-car fight, and those behind being brought into the mix as well. They've only completed 6 laps so far. It feels like we've done 16.
Yeah, another 5 could be joining the fight soon as well. It's got Novosa with Dan Webster right behind him. Webster, very quick pro driver, of course, but didn't qualify as Carl Chase goes very wide through turn 2. Oh, and misses his braking point entirely at turn 3. That was not an attempted move, but a big mistake from Carl Chase.
A little bit slippery there as they now try and rejoin as well. So Ben Bennyworth has lost out, and I can hear some tire smoke in the background. Oh, Darrell Taylor's lost it as well. It's a difficult car, and I think we've seen on occasion as well, at a track like this, high speeds, the understeer pretty prevalent as well. Back up front, Woodhatch only 6/10 in front of Nathan Moore, but now with the fastest lap of the race.
And is that an encouraging sign that he's got the fastest lap of the race while out in front? There's the situation. Woodhatch not doing anywhere near enough, unfortunately, to get that championship away from Moore, but it's a tall order that he's got here this evening. Maybe it is an encouraging sign. 3/4 of a second, but the problem is here. He's always going to be pegged back along these long straights.
I think, going back to what I said earlier, Ewan, it is a situation where for Woodhatch to win the championship, Moore has to DNF the race, but didn't we learned this tidbit about Crofton Woodhatch in the first round of the season. It's his first serious crack in an iRacing competition, of any sort of a sim racing competition. So to have gotten, reasonably close to the championship, to have fought with someone like Nathan Moore as he punches in yet another fastest lap, there's going to be plenty of positives that you'll probably take away from a season like this.
Exactly, I think that's it really. It's the fact that he's competed with Nathan Moore, and anyone, by the way. It doesn't matter whether it's your first iRacing season or your last, in my opinion. If you compete with Nathan Moore, then you've had a good season. So especially in the Radical. So I think this has been a success, no matter what kind of experience you've got. And for this to be Crofton Woodhatch so early on in his iRacing career, that's very encouraging news indeed. But is he strong enough to pull away entirely from Nathan Moore in this race? Not entirely sure. We'll wait and see if he can manage it.
Ben Bennyworth, Adam Grevson and Oliver Moore are having a little bit of a fight of their own out of the opening sector of the lap. You can see that Grevson doesn't look like he's got too much damage on the car. That was something that I was trying to see if there was going to be any difficulty he was dealing with. He does have a look to the inside by the 33 in response. Maybe now some damage to the right-hand side. Big look. Oliver Moore says thank you very much, but he's fighting side by side with that number 96 of Bennyworth.
Yeah, Bennyworth hangs on, and there certainly is damage down the right-hand side of Grevson's car now. That is not ideal. I don't think that was fully intentional, and it wasn't really it wasn't outrageous. He didn't cause any incidents, but it was a bit late on the brakes, too late on the brakes. He soon found out, and he's now dropped back to 6th place in the Pro-Am standings with Cooper out in 2nd. This first lap may have killed him in the championship here tonight.
Might have seen some other drivers retiring from the race, retiring from the series in effect as well, this being the final round. That's a bit of a loot from Stephen Koenig, and oh, is there going to be contact? He's parked in a rather precarious position, all things considered, and he backs out of there and is going to spin it around, but did end up bringing it back down pit lane.
Yeah, and it's not surprising that some people have called it a day here tonight, because it is the end of the season. That last race, of course, and that might be factoring in some thinking as Grevson comes into the pit lane. Think this is a good idea, as long as he can make it to the end, which I'd suspect he can, then this is a good idea. Get yourself out of traffic, do your pit stop early, and see what you can do.
He definitely has damage on that right-hand side, so that will be something he's thinking about. Stephen, by the way, actually was another one that had a technical issue. So did Janneman Preuss, so Martina Ward not the only one that's had some issues over the course of the day, unfortunately, as Grevson's going to hit the marks and see if that car can get back out on track and in a good track position as well. That's going to be an important thing at this point of the race. Are we going to go 3 wide? Well, I tell you what, Webster and Cheverton are very much thinking about dueling side by side. Now, Robert Woodward says, you two have at it. I'll back out of this one and see if I can sneak a position on my fellow pro as Webster gets checked up behind Cheverton. On the inside of Luffield's a brave place to be, but somehow they get through without too much drama.
Well, there was just about a Radical car width down the inside there, but Dan Webster made absolutely sure that he filled it, and surely now he'll be able to go through. Whether it's outside of Cops, I'm not so sure, but he'll be able to go through soon. Very strong driver, as I say very often, Dan Webster, but as I mentioned, hasn't qualified in this race and so has to work his way through. It will be outside of Magnussen Beckett's. He could see that coming. Cheverton flew into that corner and Webster now makes a slightly aggravated dive down the inside, and that doesn't come off either.
All it's done, check up some momentum, and this time it's the pink 24. That's looking the long way around. Big draft being fed, though, of course, towards Dan Webster as we look up towards Stowe. Cheverton again covers the inside. Is he going to be able to switch back underneath without running his way off the track as Dan Webster did there? I am quite surprised that none of these drivers look towards pit lane. Not surprised to see the lunge to the inside, but Cheverton once again holds on, and there's Woodward taking advantage.
Yeah, down the inside, and Woodward's made a good move there, although he's slow right up in front of Webster, who should get straight back through again. Paul Clark will be right onto them as well, possibly looking to take over from Cheverton on that final podium place, which I reckon he will be able to do. And once he gets through, Paul Clark, he is quite difficult to overtake, so we'll see if he can get there, although that might be a bit insignificant around Silverstone. We'll wait and see on that one. Webster just looks like he's driving frustrated at the minute, though, in this group.
You could hear that there was a little bit of tire squealing there as they worked over through turn 2, the long left-hander, so you can hear the tires very much feeling the pain around a track like this. Cheverton continues to frustrate those behind, and this is the point that I was making. Ben Cooper, after getting past Cheverton, is already 7 seconds in front, so these drivers have lost 4 seconds that last lap alone to the 9:59. That is why Cooper was so, let's say, insistent on working his way on through, and I don't want to really take my eyes away from this because I have no doubt that it's going to probably continue to be as close up towards the front between these two, but got to assume at the front of the field itself as James Dawson drops away. It's Nathan Moore increasingly in the rearview mirrors of Crofton Woodhatch.
Yeah, Woodhatch was getting away earlier, as you reported at the time, but Moore's got back on terms, and I think in doing so has dropped James Dawson, who may have made an individual mistake, to be fair, on one of the laps, but I think it's more likely that he's just not able to stick with the pace of these three, or these two out front, I should say. I think the front three, though, have already decided the podium. Those further behind are now too far back, even the likes of Woodward and Webster, who are still looking for places, nearly half a minute back already.
On board with Nathan Moore, of course. Don't forget that the driver going through a bit of a team switch is behind the scenes. Some things shake on up, and so Nathan Moore going to be jumping over to what I believe is now called the WSR by Butt Kicker Esports team. It's a wonderful team name. Just with the same Pure Sims paint as they round out, of course, this calendar year in 2023. That's going to be an opportunity, surely, for Webster to try and have a lunge to the inside. Doesn't think about it. Avoided locking up the right front as well. But now, Woodward, the one that tries to spring the surprise on Cheverton. That was a move that no one saw coming. Cheverton gave just enough space, but now on the outside will keep some more momentum as they run their way in towards Brooklands.
Well, I wasn't surprised he made the move, but I was surprised there was no contact there. That was remarkable. Woodward's going down the inside again. He's got to be careful there. And he's still going for it. Webster's on the outside and thankfully backed out of it because he could have got pinballed there. Woodward's put his car down an impossible gap. Cheverton holds him off. Now Webster's doing the same at Luffield. He's not got the run here either. And Cheverton is still hanging on to 7th place.
I mean, he's got the widest Radical that you have ever seen right now. And be careful, boys. You've got to make sure you get to the end of this one safely. Almost 3 wide through Cops. It's still Cheverton, the Pro-Am driver, that's holding off Webster and Woodward. Paul Clark's just sitting there waiting for his opportunity, and now Adam Locke and Scott Norvesa have joined as well. Let's not forget that we should probably talk a little bit about Adam Locke as he continues to waltz his way towards an AM championship.
and he's ahead of his nearest rival now all of a sudden as well, Norvesa, who's now 19 points behind as we run. And I think Adam Locke may even be able to go and chase down Pitt for the race lead here, although that's becoming a long, long way away here in this race as Ben Cooper comes into the pit lane, by the way, for a Pram, undoubtedly covering off his championship rival.
You've got to wonder as well on a pit lane like this, you do not want to be following someone down given how aggressive of a braking zone it is, as you have to get yourself onto the limiter. And so for Cooper, that's probably a good thing to be able to slot into some clean air as we continue riding on board back towards the line. You can also see in that track map on the bottom right corner of your screen that when Cooper rolls from pit lane, where they will end up feeding out, because it's going to be, of course, a very, very important point. Let's check back in, though, with our race leaders, because with, 23 odd minutes complete in this one, Nathan Moore is in a very comfortable place, but given that it's not been an easy run to the championship by any means. Yes, he's been up towards the front, but not always dominant. You've got to wonder if he wants to sign off with a victory at the end of the campaign.
I don't think he has to make those kind of decisions right now. He's got a long way to go. I think those kind of decisions will be made in the next half an hour or so, and maybe in half an hour's time. We'll have to see what happens really on the other side of these pit stops, because I think right now there's nothing to separate this front two. And the only thing that would maybe separate them is some moves in the pit lane. I'd be a little bit concerned now if I was Woodhatch, though, because Moore's sitting there behind, saving fuel, saving tyres, and that could save him time in the pit stop.
Here's Ben Cooper, by the way, plenty of clean air that the 959 now enjoys. It's about a 7-second advantage, and the other thing just to consider is Cooper continues just to roll his way around and build up the temperature once again in the tyres as well. There's the inevitable. I think everyone saw this one coming. It's unfortunate, but Matthew Cheverton has finally gone around. Yeah,
and that was coming for quite a while. Unfortunate, really, because I was really enjoying that battle, but it eventually was Dan Webster cutting right in front of him. He just tried to turn underneath him, get on the power, but it was too early. And Dan Webster will probably breathe a sigh of relief at seeing that.
It was close there. That could have resulted in more drama, and this has really been a section of the track where plenty have been caught out. Here's Christopher Humphreys, and this time it's just powered down. The application of what is plenty of horsepower in a pretty light and nimble machine, and unfortunately Humphreys losing that rear end in the AM number 14. As we continue to track the battle of the pros, these are 4th and 5th in class, 6th and 7th in the overall running order, and now a remarkable 30 full seconds off of the overall lead.
That is the amount of time that they've been losing in this battle here. I mean, I think Webster could probably keep up with those two up front, really, but not from this gap. You can't close this amount of gap, and I don't think many drivers would be able to. It would have to be about 2 seconds a lap, wouldn't it, really, with the amount of time we've got remaining, and that is just not going to happen for anybody. So, unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast when you start from further down, like Dan Webster did, even when you're like Robert Woodward, starting in the mid-pack. It's going to lose you a lot of time. Maybe today has been an abnormal amount of time, but even so.
You mean that all of those AI races that I did where I just cruised through from last to first challenges weren't real, Ewan? What are you talking about?
Count, no.
iRacing does have some fantastic AI. If you do want to do some practice, by the way, and get used to any track with cars around you, highly encourage it, although they may not be as aggressive as they're being here, as Adam Locke bullies his way past Paul Clark. There was definitely contact there as they rolled their way through the corner, but now Locke's going to feed the draft to those behind, and the 21 machine's going to see if he can slingshot his way back on through at the top of the straight.
Well, I think this is not really the place where Paul Clark should be, because some of his prime rivals have already pitted and they're out in clean air and not doing stuff like this. Maybe he's just enjoying the battle really on the final day of the season, and fair enough for that, but right now it's not particularly good for his race result. He'll break late on the outside now of the final chicane. He'll give him the inside for the final part, and he should go through. Locke has hung on quite well here, but he is going to run out of space there, and now Norvesa will try and follow through.
So can that be an opportunity for the 26 to grab second in class? No. Around the outside, Locke will hold that position down for the time being. I avoided making the very, very obvious pun there. But that's Joey Tebbins' territory, and fortunately he's not here on RaceSpotTV. Did mention as well that we are not having to deal with as close and confusing championship scenarios as Lewis and Cam did this past Wednesday for the British Formula 4 Esports Championship. Of course, Luke McEwen winning over Gordy Much, but tomorrow there'll be no championship points to worry about Ewan, but there is 24 hours of racing to come here on RaceSpotTV in the butt kicker Brit car, 24 hours here at Silverstone.
Yeah, exactly. And when you think about it, that race individually is more than the Formula 4 and Radical seasons put together in terms of time. So so look at it that way. Very long race.
Really?
Probably.
Well, this is 4 hours. How long was? How many rounds was that for?
A couple more, I think, but not very. I wouldn't say very much longer. It would have to be like 20 rounds of an hour or
True.
10 rounds of 2 hours or something. So that didn't happen, I wouldn't imagine.
No, definitely not. That's a good shout as well. And yeah, there will be GT3, GT4 machines, and can be curious to see who all is running.
Yeah.
Ewan, you've got 8 hours of commentary, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's quite a long time. But I mean, it puts it into perspective, doesn't it? With 24-hour racing, we always speak about it being a long time, but it's you really realise how long it is when you consider it next to other championships or other races or whatever. That's when you really start to understand that, wow, this is a huge undertaking, and it is. I'd imagine some of the drivers in this race may well be taking it on this weekend.
Scott Novaces into pit lane as we watch a battle between Pro-Ams and AM machines. You see Ben Bennyworth very much still in the thick of things with Oliver Moore and Carl Chase running behind. Chase slips back into line behind another very red Radical SR10. And these are drivers that now owe us a pit stop. What we are starting to see as a result of these first pit stops are pit stop times. And once again, they're about 15 or so seconds, depending on how much fuel you need to put into that car. The higher range of the pit stop seemingly around 20 seconds or so. The longer you go into the race, the less you would hypothetically need to put into the car. And we'll have to wait and see just how long those out front will elect to go, especially given that they're starting to head into the thick of traffic.
Yeah, and it's got to be pit stop time soon for either one or both of them, since we're at the halfway mark as well. Let's see if it's going to be this time maybe for Woodhatch or Moore. It is for this time for Moore. Now Woodhatch is going to really hope that he doesn't catch this lap car by the end of the next lap, but I think he will do, and that might be the moment where Nathan Moore maybe takes over the lead of this race.
And very important as well, given that Moore's been riding behind for the vast majority of the race, and you would have to imagine likely saving some fuel. In behind as well comes Christopher Humphreys, so seemingly a popular time for pit stops around halfway through this 60-minute dash. And again, just to put that into perspective, 60 minutes is around one stint for the GT3 cars of 24 in tomorrow's 24-hour race. So you'd have to pack effectively 24 of these races to make up that level of action, and 24 hours of Radicals. Sounds very exciting, pretty taxing on the drivers. Where does Nathan Moore feed out though? It's into pretty clean air, but still some traffic to deal with.
Well, I think he's in pretty much the best place he could be here. He's left it long enough so that a lot of the guys who he would have come out around have already pitted, or indeed they were already too far behind anyway, because he's already in fifth Moore, and he's only lost places to three drivers who haven't pitted yet. Admittedly, there are still some among him who haven't pitted as well, that bit behind that is, but he's come out ahead of them. So I think this is an absolute dream for Nathan Moore right now, and Crofton Woodhatch has to be in at the end of this lap, I would imagine, and has to hope that the traffic that he's encountered on this in-lap hasn't affected him too much.
I have to try and check in with your race leader. Here we go. Lights flash through Mags and Beckett's from Woodhatch in that number 7, and now he will want an opportunity to work down to Stowe and maybe get the clean air. The problem is, if you've lost time already, is it worth committing? Is it worth staying out there for a couple more laps? Woodhatch decides no, he's straight back in to respond.
Yeah, the danger was there that the lap car tried to let him through on the right, and then Woodhatch would go straight into the back of him. Thankfully, that didn't happen. But I think the damage may be done here. I would put my money on Nathan Moore coming out here first, because not only did he catch that blue and grey car you saw in the background of those shots, but he also caught a second lap car on this in-lap.
So there's a split screen look at the two. Woodhatch into the box and trying to be as aggressive as he can. Can't afford to have missed the mark, and indeed, about as perfect as you can get. It was 17.8 seconds for Nathan Moore stationary, so Crofton Woodhatch has that mark to beat. Let's not forget as well that the fact that you effectively cut out the final corner of the lap does mean that pit entry cuts some time relative to the time you lose on pit lane itself, and so it's going to be that blend as Woodhatch comes over the top of turn 1 as Moore rises his way with speed as well. That we'll see how close they're going to be. It's neck and neck, but somehow Woodhatch is still in front, but by the narrowest of margins. It's not done and dusted. 28 more minutes to settle it at Silverstone.
I feel like if that was sort of do or die stuff and that was the last lap, then Moore certainly could have gone for that. But I think realising that there are still 28 minutes remaining here, probably 15 laps if we put it into perspective like that, he knows that there's time on his side. He doesn't need to risk a move down the inside into turn 3. He doesn't need to do it into Brooklands either. So he chooses to bide his time. And the two have come out together, which is the best thing we could have possibly hoped for. I think this means we're getting a race to the end between these two.
It's going to be good between them, isn't it? Dawson's lost a lot of time by virtue of pit stops, so he may have taken tyres at some point over there. But these two are very close, and every other battle is somewhat filtered out slightly. Somehow Ben Cooper, through all of the drama, is back up to the lead of the Pro-Am category in 5th overall and is on his way to the championship. Adam Locke has lost a bunch of time in the pit stop cycle. He's down in 15th combined, 3rd in class, but still looking comfortable for a championship. Hopefully someone gets on the blower to Nathan Moore and says, make it fun for us to close the season out, please.
I think he is going to. He would have come into this race knowing that today the championship was almost sealed as long as he finishes the race. And you know, well, I say that, as long as he scores points, I should say more accurately. And it looks like he's going to do that. So I think he is going to go for it and go for the race win, because that would give him 3 out of 4 and not sort of, give Crofton Woodhatch that moment on the top step of the podium. More, it looks like he's not going to finish below 2nd all season long, even if things don't go well for him in this battle for the win.
I think that's a slightly deceptive stat, though, because the way that I remember Brands Hatch was not a simple race for Nathan Moore by any means.
Well, it's still 2nd.
It's still 2nd, yes, but the form book sometimes doesn't tell the whole story. You're right that it has been a very successful season, but Brands was maybe a race where he didn't look the most comfortable. And was it Snetterton where he also just said that he didn't like the setup? Woodhatch makes a mistake, and here we go. The battle commences side by side through Luffield.
Yeah, it's Moore who's got the wide line on the way out here, or the late apex, I should say, on the way out. But has he got the run to go for it at Copse? Maybe. Woodhatch clearly believes he'll go for this, and Moore does. He pulls alongside at Copse, and he won't go all the way round there. He'll go for the exit and the run towards Maggots and Beckett's instead.
Oh, let's not do this, though. They're not going to actually do it side by side with 25 minutes to go. They'll save that for maybe the final lap of the race. But Woodhatch makes a mistake, and that is something you do not want to be doing. Making mistakes, maybe, yes, cold tyres, given that Woodhatch is still trying to get his tyres back up to the optimal racing condition, but you give a driver an opportunity behind, and they will not let go, and still snaking in that drop. But back up to the outside, Moore will go. Woodhatch not going to compromise himself, but he's going to run the Pure Sims number 88 out wide. You can see the brake lights flashing back on from Moore as he tries to avoid picking up any off-track penalties, which are something that we haven't talked about too much, but here at Silverstone, Grade 1 Formula 1 facility, you do have to keep an eye on.
You do, and possibly, almost certainly, more than any other circuit this season, where going off the road generally means bad things or worse things than off-tracks. Silverstone, you can get away with a little bit more track limits violations, but Moore not able to make his way through on that occasion, so Woodhatch stays in the lead. And yeah, you are right, by the way, it was Snetterton where he was really challenged by Luke Maxwell, it was, who was very close up behind him throughout a lot of that race. And Maxwell, by the way, won a Radical title last night. Nice. I think he's probably too busy celebrating to be racing here. To be fair, he wasn't here last week either. Maybe he's busy or something. But yeah, congratulations to him. Unfortunately, not had such a good Motorsport UK season with the Radicals this time round.
No, but hopefully, we'll get to do this more and more moving forward. There's, of course, so many new things coming up in the world of Motorsports UK. Of course, Formula 4 British Championship wrapping up this past week. This championship wraps up today, and then looking forward to seeing how the Britcar 24 is going to go this coming weekend. Some exciting lineups in there. I know RaceSpot's own Will Chadwick's going to be in the field, so I hope he's driving when Ewan O'Leary's on commentary so we can roast the heck out of him. You better start preparing your puns, Ewan.
Well, puns. Well, I'll certainly be looking forward to seeing it. But oh dear, Daryl Taylor off the road at turn 4 there. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to seeing it, but I don't think I'll have any puns ready.
Disappointing. You haven't done enough broadcasts with Joey, have you?
Well, so much there, I've done too many.
He hasn't rubbed off on you enough is, I think, the problem. Here we go. Still watching the battle for the lead, but I think it's going to be another self-spin for the 22 machine of Daryl Taylor as he tries to bring his way out through the village and the loop section, and indeed just already a little bit too committed on the corner exit, and it's a good thing that he was able to spin it around in quick time and avoid losing too much ground.
Yeah, Daryl Taylor unfortunately having a bit of a nightmare tonight. By the way, in that same series, Daryl Taylor also driving in that one that Luke Maxwell was crowned title of last night. He was having such a nightmare in practice, Daryl Taylor, that he decided not to race at all. So unfortunately, it's just not been a very good couple of days on iRacing for Daryl Taylor, and he's down to 15th now in this race. But thankfully, it's going a bit better for these front two. Still no moves made. I really feel like Nathan Hill's just waiting now, waiting for a little bit later on, because he knows he's going to get repassed if he does it too early.
Yeah, I think you probably save it for the final 10 minutes or so if you're up towards the front. Not so if you are, fighting slightly further back. Battle for the final spot in the podium of the Pro-Am class. It's Cheverton in front now of Clark and Grevson. And again, Grevson's gone from spinning on the opening lap and finding his way back up into 5th in class. It's still going to unfortunately be a little too late in the championship. As you can see, 8 points going to be the mark between Cooper and Cheverton, without factoring in the fastest lap bonus point that is in the class as well. And what could have been in terms of the championship mix? It really did seem 1 point between those two coming into it, close in qualifying. Well, we were setting ourselves up for a real fun fight.
We were, but as I said at the start of the broadcast, the Pro-Am start is the most nervy of any, because they're right in the middle of the field. They can easily get caught up in incidents. Unfortunately, that has happened for Grevson, who is still 5th in this race. He's recovered well, actually, and I think he'll finish on the podium, but the 2 points in front of him aren't going to make up the 8-point deficit he's got right now.
No, absolutely not. It's going to need an issue, and I'm hoping that's not a commentator's curse to be brought down onto your now class leader, both in the points but also in the race itself, as Cooper, as mentioned, 5th overall, 30 full seconds now. Behind your race leader. Had a couple more cars back down onto pit lane to cycle through the pit stop window. Have also had some drivers in for drive-through penalties. So there have been some naughty drivers out there, including James Smaggersgale, who's just come down for that one. But I mentioned incident points, Ewan. Off-tracks are easy to run up here, and we've seen plenty of car contacts, especially in the case of Matthew Cheverton.
Yeah, if you've been involved in battles here, then you certainly have been picking up maybe a couple of 4Xs around the place, and so there may be off-track concerns and contact concerns as well. The more concerning ones for me always are whether I'm one contact away from being out of the race. That's when you get really worried, because sometimes that's not all in your control. The off-tracks are, but if someone hits you and you get a 4X, then you'll be in a lot of trouble. And that's what makes you nervous. But in the end, they are, of course, of your own doing, and it's not surprising if Cheverton is getting towards that mark, because of the battles, basically, that we saw earlier on. I think it's fair to say they were very, very fierce indeed.
Yeah. Now, we've talked a little bit about this car and our lack of experience in being quick in it. The one thing that I did do, I've been doing some driving in virtual reality. It's been a lot of fun to jump into various different cars and see what it's all like. I didn't do laps here at Silverstone. I did do some laps at Brands Hatch, and the elevation there was very cool. But maybe this is something that you and we have discussed, but maybe people weren't around for the previous broadcast. Left-hand drive versus right-hand drive. Is that something that makes a difference to you?
No, not to me, really. It would in real life, of course. But in sim, I barely even notice, if I'm honest with you, whether it's right-hand drive or left-hand drive. I do understand that in a UK series that this Radical being left-hand drive is a little bit strange.
Well, I'm not sure if they only make these in left-hand drive configurations. That could be the case. But yeah.
I'd imagine not.
Well, it costs money to have to, you know, make left-hand and right-hand drive versions. And don't forget, they're not street legal, so you're just making them for the track, so...
That's true. That makes you question why they've got 2 seats in the first place, but I do get the idea.
Well, the reason why is because you can stick someone into the right seat and scare the absolute living bejesus out of them if you really wanted to. But yes, I do. You're not wrong, which is why there are certain Radicals which actually don't have the second seat. So, yes, the SR1 does not have a second seat, but it's also a bit of an introductory car, so it's not the one that you're trying to scare people with necessarily. That's all besides the point. I just find it interesting because, like you say, in the real world, I grew up in Singapore. They drive on the right side of the car. Right side of the car, both literally and metaphorically.
Well, not metaphorically, you mean physically, because they actually do sit on the right.
Right, but no, also metaphorically. That's the correct side of the car that you should be sitting on.
Yeah, morally, the right side.
Exactly. There you go. Morally, yeah, that's probably the right way to describe it. When I've had to fly back to the US and then jumped in my car, genuinely, I've driven through the entire parking lot on the wrong side until I realized, wait, I'm in a new car. Fortunately, it's a parking lot, but still, imagine if you were on a public road doing that. So, just something I was curious about, as Grevson's going to get very close to Paul Clark, who's getting a little bit loose and squirrely at this late point of the race.
Yeah, and Clark is going to squeeze Grevson a lot. I think he was hoping that Grevson would back out of that, and eventually he did get his wish, but goes miles off. I think he was hoping for the racing line there, but never got it. And there's a flash of the lights from Grevson as well, who was squeezed there.
Flash of the lights. Are we going to see those lights being required in terms of paving the path? Because it is 2:59 p.m., but I mean, traditional British weather patterns, I'm going to be the Brit here. It looks pretty miserable in terms of cloud cover.
Well, it is very cloudy at the moment, even though it says mostly cloudy. It looks very cloudy as Grevson goes up the inside of Paul Clark now. Does he get the place here? Yes, he does finally have the place as Paul Clark runs pretty wide there into the Doe corner. So, yeah, I mean, in real life, right, this, of course, in sim is yesterday, if you like, but, I mean, it was pitch black in an hour's time, virtual standard time as of yesterday. I think sunset tomorrow is at 10 to 4. So, you know, we're not that far away from darkness, no.
It's one of those things where you do see bits of sunshine, the yellow, but then there is also plenty of drama.
Woodward.
Yeah, what's happened here? Is it a technical?
Like yeah, I was going to suggest that. Looks like a technical. And now he's finally found the escape button, which is not always... easy operation.
That is the thing about VR, I will say. I have had a few technical issues, so I would not necessarily do a proper race with it, but let's see if we can figure out what happened to him.
It's going to be straight on at turn 1, I would imagine. Yes, that looks like he can't see where he's going anymore, to me.
Yeah, and he did a good job to recognize that, you know what, I'm coming in through turn 1, let me flick it into the gravel and get out of dodge, and, well, fortunately didn't have to worry about sliding out as far as... a Formula 1 car did a couple of years ago, so that's a fortunate way to bring a season to an end, even if it's with disappointment, as we check back in with Grevson, who's now closed back into Cheverton, and we'll see if the 390 is going to frustrate the 54 in the same way that it's done to so many others. As another quick look at the points, every position that Grevson gains is 1 point extra. It's still not going to be enough.
Yeah, Grevson is crucially 26 seconds behind, or 25 seconds roughly behind Cooper, which is the important one really. He needs to be ahead and beat him in this race if he wants to win the title, and right now that does look like it's going to be pretty impossible. So we can enjoy this battle, I think, between Cheverton and Grevson. It's going to be a good fight because we know that based on previous experience, Cheverton doesn't give up places easily, and Dan Webster's nearly back again as well.
Back towards the line with now 14 minutes left to go. Robert Woodward does indeed say that his screen went off, so maybe not a surprise there Daryl Taylor has said that he got to that incident limit as well and has retired for the season as well, brings his day to a close. Robert Woodward correctly says, by the way, Ewan, that it's a quote-unquote mechanical failure, so it's not too dissimilar to real life.
Exactly. Not in VR, apparently, from by the sounds of that, but still, mechanical failure. The problem I always used to have with my TV back in when I used to race about 50,000 years ago was the TV turning off after 4 hours. The timer,
yes.
whatever it's called. That was a right pain. I had to learn to put the remote next to me because otherwise it would turn off, obviously.
But you only had one TV, I'm assuming, at the time. You didn't have triple screens with TVs, did you?
No.
Yeah, I remember Gamer Muscle was doing a stream, and it was a long stream, and he had like, I forget what brand of TVs, it doesn't matter at the end of the day anyway, but they turn off after some 20 hours, much like you and ours did at Gamers 8 this past summer. I'm not sure if you remember that. Yes, it was that same brand is what I'm trying to say. But
I can't remember.
but he had to try and coordinate during a Porsche All-Stars race, if I remember correctly, on the Le Mans straights. Turn off all three monitors, TVs, and turn them back on.
That is painful. Yeah.
It's content is what it is.
Well, that's true as well. But yeah, it's a bit of a problem. Eventually, as I say, I did learn to put the remote next to me, and you just press OK on a straight or whatever, and you're fine. Or press a button, and you're fine. But it is an issue. Thankfully, computer that was an actual traditional TV, if you like, that you'd actually watch like shows on rather than a computer monitor. So I guess it's slightly different, but the principle's sort of the same, as you say.
Yeah, no, I don't know. There is an increasing trend from plenty of people to grab 70-inch TVs and use them in triple monitor setups. I don't necessarily understand it, but
I wouldn't use it in a triple screen display, but I might use it as my only screen.
But that to me makes even less sense. I wouldn't want a TV that big as my only screen. Like the biggest I'd want a single screen is like, well, the ultra wide, the 49-inch ultra wide, which is what I have. That's perfect. I love it. It's great. I'm never giving mine up. And if mine stops working, I'm going to be very sad, because mine is the old 1080p version, which I bought on Black Friday 5 years ago for like $700, and you can still buy that model brand new on Black Friday for more than I paid for it in 2023. So I don't.
Like you should set it at peak times for a big gain.
It's not worth that much, unfortunately.
Sounds like you should. Well, I would anyway. But anyway.
What do you
that's
race on,
I don't
even?
do much racing. Well, a laptop screen.
Exactly.
That's not 49 inches ultra wide. That's probably 4.9 inches or something. I don't know. But
so that's your iPhone screen.
It's yes. That's what I don't know how big laptop screens are, but just imagine that it's that big. That's what I race on. It's not. I think I get about 30 frames a second at most, and that's enough for me.
Okay, that's the hard part. Now, laptops themselves aren't bad. Plenty of World Championship drivers have started on laptops and have competed at the top level on a laptop as well. It's more the fact that you're not running at 60 FPS that is not ideal. Suboptimal is probably the way to put it.
I'll blame that as why I'm not at the top level of sim racing.
There you go. Racing driver excuses. You've got plenty of those.
I have, yeah. Well, I've been learning from them all these years, so I've got plenty now, yeah.
On board with Dan Webster, who's back up to this fight with Cheviton and Grevson. If Webster doesn't pass them, it doesn't matter. The best he's going to score in points is 4th in class. The worst that he's going to score in points is also 4th in class. So the last thing that he will want to do to close out the season is to get into Race Control's naughty books and to tangle with the two Pro-Am machines battling for the final spot in the podium in class.
You'd imagine so, but I think he will still want to get through, and Grevson certainly feels like he wants to get through as well, because they've been here before, after all. These three will know each other quite well now, and they're all fighting over 7th place in the overall standings as well. So I think Cheriton's going to be a difficult one to pass once again, but both of the two behind him are going to try, certainly.
Plenty of sun peeking from the horizon as the sun continues to set, but It's also something that can frustrate the drivers, blind them on various entries, rob them of crucial markers, and Webster's going to go around the outside on the entry into the Magnussen-Beckett's complex to displace the two Pro-Am drivers and add some separation between them. It's all as the clock ticks to less than 9 minutes left to run in this race. Up towards the front, Crofton Woodhatch is now 1.8 seconds clear of Nathan Moore, the champion-elect, in second spot, but ultimately, I think Nathan Moore has decided it's not worth really pushing at you, and he's decided to be boring.
Well, I'm not sure whether he has decided that, or whether he's made a mistake that's put him 2 seconds back now, or whether he can't stick with the pace of Crofton Woodhatch. I mean, there's multiple possibilities, but I think, yeah, Moore will be more than happy to continue in second place and just win the title from there.
Very punny of you.
I wasn't really going for it.
Yeah, but
I
you
do
said
recognise that I said it. Yeah.
You said it. Not me. You said it. Anyway, Grevson's lost out a little bit after being passed by Webster, who was very wide out of the opening couple of corners. Bit of a peak, bit of an overlap between the two of them in through the village section, but no pass just yet. Back into the draft it's going to be as they cycle out of Aintree and on towards the Wellington Straight, underneath that bridge, and powering down in towards Brooklands. It's about a quarter of a second, the margin between them, about a car length and a half, if that. You can see how much they close, how rapid the closing speed is, but not close enough to be completely alongside. It's enough, though, to be able to lunge your way to the inside look and slot back into line when it doesn't work out.
Well, Cheverton just never gives in, even on the outside line there, more than halfway alongside. Dan Webster looked like he was going to go through, but Cheverton hung on again, and he might well do for the final 7.5 minutes here. There's only 4 laps to go and they get to the line. It's not out of the realms of possibility that he holds on to 7th place for what it's worth, which is, of course, absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and let's just quickly recap in terms of live points how we sit right now, starting up towards the very front where traffic's going to play its part, and Woodhatch is going to be closed on in by the champion-elect Nathan Moore. Even with the victory and the fastest lap, it's still going to be the 9 points between Moore and Woodhatch. It's just not enough time to really fight their way on through. If you cycle then over to the AMS, where Scott Norvesa and Adam Locke are now fighting for second in class, Jake Pitt ran away with the lead of the class quite a while ago and has never looked back. But it's about 17 points here between these two drivers as they fight right now. And, well, last but not least, it's a championship that was effectively decided at the start when Ben Cooper and Adam Grevson tangled and both ran off the road. Cooper less impacted of the two of them and leading the class as he gets ready to run his way to the championship.
Yeah, and Grevson will be looking back on that moment with a lot of disdain, I think, because that is the moment where he lost this championship. Cooper will, of course, be looking back at last week and thinking, how on earth did I finish down in 10th at Brands Hatch when I really should have been further up the field after winning the first 2 races? You know, it's a very, very difficult one to take for Grevson. Now, it's just a massively disappointing one. Not a lot you can do from this point, and it looks like, as it has been the case for quite a while, all 3 of the titles seem pretty well wrapped up even now.
On board with Adam Locke. Championship may be secure. Is second spot going to be his as well? Not just yet. Move to the inside doesn't pay out. I must say, some wonderful liveries that we have seen from some of these drivers. Quite like this gradient look and the way the spec map works as well. It's clearly quite fast because Scott Norvesa gets peeled off the apex. Adam Locke gets alongside and down the old pit straight. They'll be side by side running in towards Cops, but not going to be alongside surely in through here. The 26 backs out and decides to fight another day.
And whether he'll be able to fight another day for this place, I'm not so sure, but at least he's still in the race. He'll trail Locke through the Magnussen-Beckett section and look to come back at him. To be fair, I'm somewhat surprised that Adam Locke hasn't been able to come through and take a race win, but that's only based on previous experience. Of course, he started at the back at Brands Hatch and he was in the lead pretty quickly. But this time around, he's come up against Jake Pitt, who's miles and miles ahead of him. But even if Pitt wasn't in this race, I mean, Locke would be making a lot harder work at this race than he did at Brands Hatch, for example.
Yeah, this is, again, Brands Hatch was expected to be the most technical of the challenges. This is maybe the one where the racecraft has been tested at its most with some of the 3 and 4 wide situations. It's not to say that Donington, as well as Snetterton, didn't present plenty of interesting situations, scenarios for the drivers to have to deal with and to work their way on through. As, by the way, your leaders continue to have to deal with traffic. It's not much that they're going to have to deal with, but you can see the 80 and the 96, Ben Weston and Ben Bennyworth, directly in front.
Yeah, so they're starting to lap some quite high rating drivers and quite high placed drivers as well here. Woodhatch, the gap down to 1.5 with 2 laps to go at the end of this one. It's an interesting battle for 14th overall as well. Is that going to stump Woodhatch and just close that gap, allow more to maybe have a sniff at this race win?
You can see the lights flash, the universal sign of let me through, but blue flag's informational only as Woodhatch fastest lap of the race, and that's an important one because the gap increases slightly on that last lap, yes. But, as that's a bit of an overcommitment from Ben Weston under the brakes. It's going to allow, at the very least, Woodhatch to slip his way on through. But the fastest lap from Woodhatch, even with the traffic, meant that it was just going to take one moment for the gap to close. Moore is still pushing here in the closing stages.
But there they go, both of the cars out the way. Bennyworth gets to the left-hand side, but Moore is stuck behind Weston, who is seeing an opportunity in front of him with Bennyworth having to slow down and let Woodhatch through. He's seen an opportunity as Weston, and that has put Nathan Moore in a real predicament now. He does get to the inside finally, but with Woodhatch getting through, surely that has sealed the win.
It is done, I would assume. It is increasingly getting dark, by the way, but not to the points where headlights would be required. 26 started, we are down to 22 running. Woodward and Taylor retirees in the Pro class, while Carl Chase and Martina Ward, the 2 retirements in the Pro-Am class. Martina Ward, of course, lost power to not just her building, but to the entire village. And so, you know, that's much like for Darrell Taylor, and rather for Robert Woodward, it was a mechanical failure when the screen went dead. Martina Ward also had to deal with something like that. But we are getting ready to go on to the very final lap of the 2023 Radical Esports Cup UK campaign. It's here at the home of British Motorsports. Nathan Moore closing, but finally getting through traffic. Still 1.7 seconds behind your race leader, Crofton Woodhatch, here at Silverstone.
Yeah, it's going to be a lap of honour for Crofton Woodhatch now. Just under 2 seconds the margin. Just needs to not make a mistake on this final lap, and he will be a race winner for the first time in this championship here this season. He makes his way over the line into the first sector for the final time. And just look at the gaps behind as well. Nearly half a minute back to the rest of the field. These two have been the class of the field, not only in Pro, but just generally so far today. And you could argue throughout this season as well. They're going to finish 1-2 in the overall standings as well.
Had fun with them in that first round, let's not forget. It's an interesting place to start any season off is Donington, and it's full Grand Prix layout. We use the double hairpin variant, which frustrates plenty. What's your opinion on that, Ewan? Yay or nay?
It's probably better than the national layout, although it flows a little bit worse, I suppose, doesn't it? But yeah, I think it's not bad.
Yeah, I'm with you there. But we did have to see, traffic especially was quite interesting given how many were on the grid as Dan Webster's season comes to an end, and comes to an end on the flatbed on his way back to pit lane. Yeah,
drops from inside the top 10, in fact. Thought he was going to end up 7th in that race, actually, but no. He's gone straight on there. Is that another technical?
Oh, don't tell me that it is, but we'll have to jump on board. You can see that sun. He's on the grass, and yeah, he just can't see where he's going again.
Maybe, no, it looks very similar. I thought his steering was broke, actually, initially, but no, he still could turn the wheel, but I don't think he could see where he was turning his wheel to, so just decided it was safer to not do that.
Probably the best call for all, but the lights flash from Nathan Moore in recognition of what's been a close fight between Woodhatch and Moore through the entirety of the 60 minutes we've had here in the final round of the 2023 Radical Esports Cup UK. What a beast is this SR10. We've taken it across to some of the finest tracks available on iRacing, let alone tracks available in the UK. Crofton Woodhatch will win the battle, but it's Nathan Moore that wins the war. The 2023 Radical Esports Cup UK champion with the fastest lap at the death as well, not to be denied, was the number 88 with new team affiliations to talk about as well. It might be a while before we see Ben Cooper run his way to the line. Winner in the Pro-Am class, not just of this race, but of the championship as well. And boy, what a championship it's been for those Pro-Am machines.
As if he needed the extra point. Nathan Moore taking that fastest lap right at the end, but finally Ben Cooper into the final couple of quarters of his season.
And it is a well-earned championship, but a championship that at the start of this race you wouldn't have known which way it would have gone. It's Cooper that emerges on top, a third victory of the season, and he will be thrilled, he'll be delighted, as will Jake Pitt, who wins in the AM class after breaking away in the early stages, taking advantage of a bit of a roadblock behind. He becomes the first winner in the AM class not named Adam Locke because, well, Adam Locke had this class locked down until he didn't. He'll grab second at the end, though, in the final round and grab the championship as well. 2 tickets to a round of his choice in the 2024 Radical Esports, Radical Cup UK, rather, I should say. And what a well-earned couple of tickets as well. He'll get to see just how fantastic, Ewan, this car is in the real world.
Yeah, certainly will. And a great season for him. Domination in the end. Flashes his lights over the line. Another top 10 to finish off, even though it's not a race win. He does extend his championship lead. The figure at the end will stand at 19. He is the most dominant championship winner of the 3 classes this season.
We'll grab a look at the race results in just a few moments' time, and then we'll look forward to some interviews with the drivers. I have a feeling that we are going to want to talk to at least some of our non-champions. We'll want to try and talk to some of the winners as well, so we'll see who we get, who we can dial on up, and how we can wrap up this wonderful, wonderful campaign, and hopefully the first of many seasons to come. There's the look at the race results, though. It's Crofton Woodhatch 1.2 seconds clear of Nathan Moore at the end, while James Dawson dropped back, but does grab a podium to close things out. It will be Ben Cooper, though, the Pro-Am winner, the Pro-Am champion. Jake Pitt, top 5 overall, first of your AMs across the line. Then Stephen Hobbs, Matt Cheverton, Adam Grevson, Paul Clark, and Adam Locke. Locke walks away, of course, with the AM championship. But Matt Cheverton, what a display of defensive driving we saw from him on occasion today. Scott Norveza and then Oliver Moore. Final 2 cars scored on your leading lap, while Ben Bennyworth 1 lap down along with Ben Weston, Peter Reed, James Smaggers-Gale, and then Gabriel Yilmaz. Dan Webster 2 laps down along with Janeman Preuss, Chris Humphreys. That's your top 20, which is David Brown, Stephen Koenig, Robert Woodward, and then Darrell Taylor, Carl Chase, and Martina Ward rounding out the 26. And of course, not all drivers, unfortunately, getting it to the end. I've already seen some people celebrating the defensive driving there of Matt Cheverton in the virtual paddock, but we've got some race winners to chat to very quickly. Let's see if we can dial up first Crofton Woodhatch, who's standing by with Ewan O'Leary.
Crofton, welcome in. Good to have you with us. First race win of the season, and you were able to hang on from Nathan Moore in the end as well, with a second or 2 to spare as well. How did that race feel for you? At what point did you realise that you were actually going to finish ahead of Nathan Moore and beat him in that battle?
That was when I came around the last corner. It was a very hard race, actually, driving the car. The car felt very different to what it felt like in practice, so I was surprised I actually won that. Nearly threw the car off a few times. And
in the end, it was a good end to the season for you, but how do you reflect on it overall? Just 4 rounds, of course, and you will end up second in the championship. How do you reflect on it?
Yeah, it's a good end. I think that I had this pace all the way through, really. Couldn't show it in Brands because I made a few mistakes in qualifying. And then at Snetterton and obviously Donington, I felt like I had the pace to win, but just didn't really fall my way. But this is a very good way to end the season.
Certainly is. Congratulations on the win tonight, Crofton, and thanks very much for coming to chat to us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Crofton Woodhatch, the race winner in Pro, and very importantly, the race winner in Pro-Am, Ben Cooper. Ben, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Not only a race winner, but a champion now as well. Tell us about how you're feeling now, having crossed the line and finished that race a winner.
Pleased to have taken the win, secured the championship, but looking back on the lap 1 incident, I feel we've been robbed of a bit of a battle, but pleased to have the championship.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly were, certainly us neutrals in the commentary box and spectators as well, robbed of a battle maybe. But what were your thoughts on the opening lap, and then what were your thoughts at the time actually as you got to the end of that one? You sort of took stock of where you were and where your rivals were at the end of what was a difficult opening lap, let's say.
Yeah, challenging for sure. With it being in the middle, I felt completely pinched. Not much I could have done. Although I need to go back and look at it a bit more throughout the race. I just try not to spin and have a Brands Hatch revival, really. But
Well, it was a very important race win for you and a great championship win as well. Congratulations, Ben, on those, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Ben Cooper there, the race winner in Pro-Am and champion, of course, and race winner in Am, not very far behind, actually, in 5th place overall. Jake Pitt, welcome, and good to have you with us again. How was that race for you? I mean, you were up there with people who weren't in your class for most of that one.
Yeah, it was a very good race. After the start, I just managed to pull away. I think there may be a few incidents behind me. Silverstone is my favourite track. Obviously, I've been practicing for Car 24, which is happening tomorrow. So I've got a good few laps around. I know I'm going. So overall, very good race for me.
We look forward to seeing you there at the Silverstone 24 Hours, of course. We'll see you out there. Jake, congratulations on the win here tonight and the P5 overall, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks very much, Jake Pitt. Am winner in the final race of the Radical Esports UK Cup here tonight. And Arjuni, you're with Nathan Moore now, the champion in Pro.
We've got our champion indeed. Nathan, it was a fun season, all things considered. Talk us through this final round and, well, what you did for most of it, which was sit behind Crofton and wait until the checkered flag and the championship to be yours.
Yeah, it was a good race to end the season. A lot of fun. I think it was myself, Crofton, and James at the start broke away, the three of us, and then Crofton and I were able to break away as a two. Yeah, I was going to play the long game, just sit behind, obviously, thinking about the championship as well, just, didn't want to take any risks, save fuel, but then I still came out behind Crofton after the pits, and then I was trying my hardest to win, and then, the lock-up of the front right didn't help, and after that, Crofton had broke the slipstream, and yeah, it was, we were so evenly matched throughout the race that once either of us, built that gap to break the slipstream, but it was very difficult to catch back up again.
Well, congratulations on what has been a fantastic season to watch in this Radical SR10, of course. Victories in the first 2 rounds, 2nd place in that last round, and well, another 2nd place to crown things off. Congratulations on the championship, and well, 2 tickets to the Radical Cup UK in 2024 coming your way.
Thank you very much.
Nathan Moore, champion in Pro. We'll make our way down to Adam Locke as well, who was able to grab 2nd in the AM category to finish things off. Adam, it wasn't, unfortunately, 4 for 4 in terms of victories, but still a pretty flawless campaign, all things considered.
Yeah, definitely. It would have been nice to go 4 wins, but I thought this one, keep it steady, take my time at the start, and make sure I keep it clean and keep it on the track.
It was another one where you did have to stay clean and stay out of trouble as well. What's it been like in that AM category, knowing that there are, 3 classes, 3 races going on, and track position matters, but ultimately you're not fighting for points with the Pro and the Pro-Am machines?
Yeah, it's just making sure I pick my battles and make the chances, pressure the others to get out of the way, but not do anything silly, not make any silly dives, and keep it clean, keep it consistent.
Congratulations on the championship, Adam, and can't wait to see you hopefully more here on RaceSpotTV in 2024.
Thank you.
Adam Locke, the AM champion. Always great to talk to the drivers in the aftermath of that race. And well, we're not leaving Silverstone just yet, Ewan. Yes, we're done for today, but come back tomorrow. It's all starting at 12 p.m. UTC. The Butt Kicker Brit Car 24 Hours of Silverstone, the 2nd edition of this race with GT3s with GT4 machines, live and uninterrupted on RaceSpotTV.
Yeah, we'll have all 24 hours here from Silverstone. Having seen this race, I'm slightly concerned about how much darkness we're going to have. It's going to be a very long stint in the middle of the race there, but what a great season we've had in the Radical Esports Cup UK. It's been 4 great rounds over 4 great United Kingdom circuits. Well, English circuits really, aren't they? Sorry to the rest of the United Kingdom. But we need some tracks elsewhere, but whatever, that's a discussion for another day. It's been a great season, thoroughly enjoyed it. Radical Racing always delivers and is always great to watch, but in the end, unfortunately, our championships were decided on lap 1 tonight, as it turned out. That's a bit of a shame, I suppose, but for the most part, it's been good racing and enjoyable as well.
It has been good, and of course, fast campaign as well, right? We had a couple of weeks between each of those first couple of rounds, but then back-to-back at the end of the season to round things off. One thing that someone has just thrown into our chat is that you don't have to be too worried about darkness tomorrow. The in-sim date slightly different to what we had today, but yeah, it's going to be a fun race and what is a busy week, of course, across the Motorsports UK esports world. So much going on, so much for the team behind the scenes to be working on, and so much for us here on RaceSpotTV to enjoy. It's a bittersweet ending for the 2023 Radical Esports Cup UK, but 3 very worthy champions and plenty of good fighting across 4 frenetic rounds. Hopefully, we're back and pretty soon to do it in 2024, but for everyone behind the scenes, for Ewan O'Leary and Cam Roger who have joined myself, Arjuna Kankipati, across the 4 fantastic races, thank you so much for your company, and we'll see you next time on RaceSpotTV. Don't forget, tomorrow, it's 24 hours of coverage for the Butt Kicker 24 hours of Silverstone.